gentlemen, please welcome Susan Ong, Regional Marketing Director for Merlin Entertainments, George Chow, the CEO of Dragontail Interactive, and Weiping Liao, Deputy General Manager of the Things to Do business unit from Ctrip. Welcome. Okay, so I think that the Chinese outbound travel market, I mean, it seems like, you know, if you subscribe to any travel industry newsletter, there wasn't a day that there wasn't some article about that marketplace, probably over the past 10 years. I mean, this has been the hottest market. It's one of the largest in terms of outbound. Everybody is focused on, you know, China, China, China. However, within the last couple of years, there's been a sense that things have been slowing down a bit. There's some questions about the economy domestically within China. I would just like to get a take from each of you, like, where are we? Are we kind of at a peak? Are they still fast, but are they slowing a little bit? I mean, Susan, would you like to start?
Yeah, I think for our attractions, the growth has been tremendous for the last, easily for the last 5 to 8 years. Just take Sea Life Bangkok, for example, which is one of our largest Sea Life brand. We have witnessed close to 100% growth in Chinese visitation, at least over the course of the last 2 years. But I think you rightly pointed
over the last 2 years, 100% growth.
100% growth. We've done a lot of things. I can share about that in a while. But I think clearly what we're seeing in the last 12 months or so, things have slowed down. For a couple of reasons. You know, I mean, a little bit of it is due to politics. A little bit of it is due to safety incidents. You know, the Phuket ferry, seizure that we saw not that long ago. But I mean, overall, generally speaking, it's been a great market for us. Yeah.
Okay. So George, what are you seeing? So you work with a lot of brands, especially Western brands that are trying to enter the Chinese travel market. Yep. What are you telling a lot of your clients?
Sure. If you asked me this question in 2016, 2017, I would have to think about it. I think after looking at the 2018 numbers, the market is still very healthy. 2016, 2017, we're seeing the growth rate, year-over-year growth rate, dipped below 10%. Was 6%, 7%. But 2018, we're back to double digits again, we're 14%. I haven't seen any real slowdown. There are certain markets that are having problems, but because of the volume, if one market is, you know, people are not going to one market, they're going to another market. I'm seeing some countries in the Q1 of this year, inbound from China grow 100% year over year. That's a whole country. That's not a single, you know, attraction brand.
And what do you attribute the slowdown to from the previous year? What were the big factors there?
For 2016 and 2017, I have no idea. I have no idea. I think we some of these numbers are, you know, difficult to come by. It also depends on whose number you believe in, right? CNTA publish a set of numbers, and then you have another company called China Outbound Travel Research Institute, Ctrip, published a set of other numbers. It depends on whose number you believe in. But, you know, I'm taking the more official numbers. I believe that, you know, 6-7% was 2016, 2017. But 2018 is back to 14. I'm curious to see what the year-round 2019 number would be. But I think it will be healthy.
So, you know, Weiping, so you have a direct line of sight, right, in Ctrip into, you know, outbound travel trends. So, you know, what are you seeing? Is it a little bit of a slowdown, or are things growing as they have been in the past?
Okay, I can share. Firstly, I can share some official data with you. So the outbound travel, the growth in 2018 is actually 14.7%. And the total number of Chinese outbound travelers is 149 million. So it's a huge number, and it's a very high growth. If we look at the breakdown of the destinations by country, some Southeast Asian countries really grow very fast, like Vietnam, Myanmar, Malaysia, etc. But actually, Chinese customers to US actually declined in 2018. Yeah.
So we talk a little bit, about that. I'm kind of personally curious as an American, but this is there's a political implications as well. We have something of it's not quite a trade war, but it's a trade skirmish, I guess, would be a fair thing to say. What kind of impact is that having? Weiping, I'll start with you.
Yeah, obviously, at least from the official data, people traveling to the US, the number declined. Yeah, so in short time, I believe there will be some negative impact. Yes.
Yeah, George.
We have just published an article, an opinion piece on the kind of China outbound travel to the US on our website, as well as on one of your media sponsors, China Travel News. I think there are some, things that both governments have done that prevented tourism into the U.S. From growing. If you look at the visa approval number percentages, it used to be 8% rejection rate. This year, so far, it's up to 12 to 14%. So there's something the U.S. government is doing that's preventing more tourists going to the U.S. Obviously, the Chinese government is also doing things. There are some restrictions on media placement, for example. There were travel warnings, right? But if you look at although the overall market might be going down, some of the cities are actually seeing healthy growth. New York and LA are both seeing increases in tourist arrivals from China. So our view is the situation is not clean cut. The situation is not black and white. There are also many, many different factors that's contributing to the decreasing shopping behavior as covered by some of the media outlets.
And have there been trending destinations as a result? So if there's a net loss in the U.S., what are some of the destinations that benefit?
Yes. If you're seeing double-digit growth in the overall market, if one market slows down, the other markets are going to grow. So you're seeing South America is growing, Southeast Asia is growing. Israel had 100% year-over-year growth in Q1 of 2019. So some of the emerging markets are actually going to do better because people are they're already looking for new experiences. Now you have the most popular destinations are having trouble. Obviously, there will be some shifts into these new destinations.
So Susan, Merlin Entertainments is the second largest attractions company in the world. So can you speak a little bit? Are you seeing any shifts from a global perspective? You've got, I think, 160 attractions around the world. Can you speak a little bit to?
I think we're a little bit fortunate because our investments are diversified with about 30% in Europe, 30% in America, and 30% in Asia. So, as George pointed out, whenever we see some places decline in Chinese travelers, for example, we'll see it picked up in another place. Obviously we want all of them, but the truth is that, for example, we're now anticipating what might happen in the next few weeks with the Hong Kong protest that's going on. And we get about 70% of our visitors in Madame Tussauds Hong Kong from China, and that's scary. But equally, with that change, what does that mean for Bangkok, Singapore, and our other businesses in Southeast Asia? So overall, I would say that, because of our diversification of our investments around the world, that has pretty much served us quite well, actually.
So I want to shift a little bit and also talk about kind of booking behavior, right? There's been a big shift there. So there's a little bit of, I'd say, a legacy, stereotype of the outbound Chinese traveler, certainly coming in groups. So many new travelers coming into the market for the first time, and there's a natural, tendency to want to travel with people that especially when you're going to a new place. What kinds of shifts are you seeing in booking behavior? Has there been a rise of the independent booker? So
Yeah.
Susan. Yeah.
I think for our attractions, because our brands are quite varied, Madame Tussauds, for example, reaches out to ages between 15 to 25, the young female generation. And that in itself, we see a lot of young people who are coming to book at very last minute. And I think that was kind of something that was shared throughout the entire day by various speakers as well. Just to share some, fast statistic, when we open up the same-day bookings for OTAs and some of our own platform, like the Wechat, a mini program platform, we immediately see a growth in 30%. So that's quite, and upon further research which we did, it was also coming out very much from the post-90s and the millennials and the Gen Z generation, people who are a lot younger travelers, and that's actually quite telling in the new generation behavior.
Then how is this shift too, as you think about kind of distribution partners, right, and trade partners into China? How has that shifted for you over the past few years?
I would say that, and I'm sure many of the industry colleagues here would testify to the same. I would say that traditional trade partners have actually declined for us in big numbers by 2-3-folds, and we're seeing a huge shift to OTAs, obviously. And that in itself is something good, and yet it presents challenges for operators like us. Obviously, with the yield piece that with the rates and the yield piece that we always have challenges on. But by and large, we're seeing a lot coming from the key OTA partners. Yeah.
So Weiping, if I'm an operator today and I want to grow, some of my business out of China, Ctrip is certainly one of the big brands. So the question for me is, if I don't work with you today, what do you look for in a partner? So for operators who are here or attractions who may not be directly working with Ctrip today, what do you, to serve the outbound Chinese market well, especially for an OTA, the largest OTA in China, what do you look for? What are the criteria?
So if I'm speaking for Ctrip, the customer profile for Ctrip is actually a little bit of mid-end to high-end customers, and about more than 70% of them are actually under the age of 35. So very young and very high spending power. So I would encourage the tour operators to create some high-quality tours for our customers. Focus on the experience, really focus on the customer service. That would be very valuable to our customers.
So obviously, Chinese language would be a no-brainer, right? That's an obvious requirement. But are there other things, kind of specifically with regard to the nature of the product itself, or the experience? So I think of the analogy is, say, over the past 10 to 15 years in the United States, where there were key inbound kind of city markets and hotels that were going after the inbound Chinese traveler, that they would, in addition to having the espresso maker in the room, you have to add Chinese tea, or have Chinese food on the breakfast menu, for example. Are there specific things around the product or guidance that you think are important criteria?
Yes, for sure. I think specifically, some young customers nowadays, they're looking for something unique, or some very cool spatial, like diving, or hot air balloon, or helicopters, like that. So that can be very appealing to the young customers.
So like really interesting adventure experiences.
Yeah, yes, adventures.
So, George, just around this and kind of the shift in booking behavior as well, what are you telling, brands that are entering the Chinese market? Online agencies, direct marketing. I mean, how do you approach that?
I think it depends on who you are and what your budget is like. If you have huge volumes and you have a lot of budget, obviously you want to do everything. You want to do direct marketing, you want to do travel trade, you want to do direct selling, you want to do third-party distribution. But if you're a small, medium player, you're just getting started, any consumer direct marketing investment will be a drop in the bucket in this market. You probably want to find a few good travel trade partners to work with to help you get your products out. Once you sell your products, you can optimize your distribution mix. Maybe do a bit of consumer marketing. Don't come in, unless you're a very big brand, don't come in with a consumer marketing campaign. Figure out the travel trade partners, get the distribution work. At least make sure a consumer can find you and they have a place, either on the OTA website, on their OTA app, or through one of the traditional tour operators, they can book your product and pay for your product.
So I want to shift a bit on, so you brought up experiences, and this is a really interesting question too, especially for traditional, attractions. So first, the demand for new types of experiences. So we have this, can we put this on the screen? We have the slide from the pages from Ctrip. Yeah, so this is quite interesting, and I wasn't aware of this until just recently. So you have in Ctrip local hosts who are offering experience. So this is all in Chinese, but can you just quickly walk us through what we're looking at here on these screens?
Yes, actually this is the local tour guide channel of Ctrip on our app. It becomes very popular nowadays. So currently we cover more than 100 countries. And
how many local tour guides do you have?
More than 10,000.
And so these are individuals, these are hosts?
Individual guides.
And they're all offering local tours in Chinese. And this is something that Chinese travelers want. So they want to have experiences with locals.
Yeah, currently Chinese travelers, they're looking for some very authentic local experiences. So this tour guide can offer that.
So is this your answer to Airbnb?
Yeah, a little bit similar. Yeah, P2P experiences. Yeah. Actually, we're doing quite well. We served more than 1 million customers last year.
So it's not, Susan, I'm curious, are you kind of surprised by that? But I'm also, your reaction, but I'd like to also ask you, so how do you think about like the traditional attractions? We see these changes in behavior and the types of experiences, especially for, the Chinese outbound traveler is maturing, right? They've done some of the big things and now they want to come back and have a different experience. How do we plan for that, that more experienced Chinese traveler?
I think change is a constant, with the Chinese traveler. In fact, to stay constant, we're as good as losing the business, the pie. We deploy a strategy where, new news, we call it new news internally, that's the term we use, is very essential for the Chinese market. Every peak travel season, from Chinese New Year to the Tomb Sweeping Festival to Dragon Boat, summer, Golden Week, we make sure that every season we have a piece of new news out there. And most times, the new news that we call it to drive the product momentum is one that is very relevant to the Chinese. And it's something that is probably very current with the news that's happening, the discussions. Again, because we're kind of slightly fortunate when we deal with the Madame Tussauds brand, we're celebrities. We're Chinese celebrities that we work with, which we don't pay in the market. So that's an open secret. We don't pay for any celebrities that we get the wax figures done. But the good thing is that because we work with them, we get unique celebrity content. And this unique celebrity content, if I may just quickly share a recent, well, not that recent, probably in the last 12 months, when we did our new music zone, for our Madame Tussauds Shanghai. To our surprise, what we thought was a major capital investment in a very big music hall, 360 LED screens surrounding, we thought that would be the thing for the Chinese market. Surprisingly, when we launched our attraction, that particular zone, that wasn't the thing that caught their attention. It was this small little set of an AR set, augmented reality set, of a very popular Chinese celebrity whom you can sit on the sofa, kiss him, hug him, whatever you want, because he's a very popular, we call it fresh meat celebrity in China. And that became the most popular thing, which didn't cost us that much. So that was kind of amazing to us as well. So it's really to latch on to the latest topic and to ensure that you kind of know that this is what the market is looking for. And to that, you really need to be very aware of what's happening in the China market.
So I want to come back to channels a bit, and we just had this whole session earlier on super apps and just, some of the stats that Brett shared about just the scale of Wechat was pretty mind-blowing. And your colleague at our Berlin conference, so Dominique Sidley, she gave a talk from a European market perspective on the outbound Chinese market, and she said, one of the things you guys did was you invested in this big, kind of beautiful website, and actually it really didn't do much for you. And so is it kind of WeChat first? And
Yeah, I think we're pretty much done with all the websites in China because I think that was a learning journey in a very early
now,
years.
that wouldn't include Ctrip, though, right?
Yeah, so I think pretty much now if you look at it, we're on a journey to get all our WeChat, mini programs launched. Together with Wechat, obviously, as a big partner of ours. That's a direct B2C channel. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the big challenges is how we balance, going through our OTA partners, which are really good channels for us, at the same time having our own channels that we continue to be able to dictate the price, dictate the packages, and do a lot more on our own as well. So, I mean, that is the journey that we're going through at the moment.
But we also heard as well that earlier that really the starting place for WeChat is really as a kind of a customer service platform to engage with customers, not necessarily to market with them initially. Is that would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, we like to take the approach that when we launch something for the Chinese travelers, we rather do it at one go. We learn from experience that if it's just an informational page, just to give directions, signages, it will probably not, be heavily used by the Chinese travelers as well. So in the recent launch of we had a couple of WeChat mini programs which was recently launched. We had integrated it with information, games, retail, and obviously direct purchase, to the WeChat Pay platform. And that is really what matters, to the consumer to be able to convert immediately. Because the last we want is to have an information page and kind of direct them to somewhere else to buy, and that's not quite the Chinese behavior. Yeah.
So, and George, would you agree with that? Is that what you tell brands WeChat first, and is it a marketing channel or is it a customer service channel?
That's something I'm going to talk in depth about in my workshop tomorrow afternoon.
Stay tuned.
So yeah,
Actually, I think nowadays we need to highlight another platform, short video platform like TikTok.
TikTok, yeah.
Yeah, some attractions or DMC companies, they launch some campaigns or just upload some short videos on that platform and made very success. So I think we must also pay enough attention to short video platforms.
And right to the next big trend out of China. So, ladies and gentlemen, Weiping, George, Susan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good.